And welcome to not the Fortean Slip, but Fortean Slip interviews. Tonight we interview Sculptor, Gene St. Jean, who has recently put out a sculpture of the Fuke monster from the Legend of Boggy Creek. You can see him at blackplague1348.deviantart.com. Gene, welcome.
How's it going, guys?
And joining me for this lovely interview will be the talented plumber, Matt Knapp.
It's a Mario!
So, Matt and I got talking one night, and Matt had found your this Fuke monster model sculpture, whatever you want. I don't know exactly what you refer to it as, and he sent me the link to the picture, and I was like, holy shit. And then I just started going through some of your other stuff and was saying again, holy shit. I think the one thing that piqued my curiosity when I was going through your stuff was I'm a huge fan of Nightcrawler, the X-Men, and I believe you've done one of those, or at least you had a picture of one.
Yeah,
yeah, and I was like, wow. But so Matt and I sat around and just went wow for like 2 hours going through your stuff, and I just, that's when I contacted you to pretty much, I think it was that night, to ask you about doing the interview.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the Falk Monster thing was a cool kind of way to break into the crypto thing. I work for a lot of different collectible companies, and I've been pitching the idea of a crypto line of either toys or statues or anything for a long time, and it's hard to get people to jump onto it because it's an unlicensed property. If it's like Batman or Spider-Man or Freddy Krueger, it's game on. You definitely can sell it, but you start talking Bigfoot and Nessie and things like that, and it's hard because the toy stores have too many failed toy lines where people attempt to do it. So I ran into Lyle on Facebook, and I had just read his book. So I shot him a message on there. I was like, dude, I just read your book. I really dug it. Obviously I was real influenced by the movie, and so he was telling me about, he has a museum at his house with all this monster stuff, and so I was checking out his page, and like, he has got a ton of the shit that I did at McFarlane, different things on his shelves, and I was like, bro, you got a lot of my stuff there. So I don't know, maybe it's like a few weeks later, he sent me a message. He's like, look, man, I'm trying to develop some merch for when I do shows. Would you be into taking that Falk poster from Legend of Boggy Creek and interpreting that into a statue? Basically, like, the poster is just a silhouette. So all the information inside, how you describe the monster, other than the basic proportions from the silhouette, you could kind of do whatever. So we talked about it a little bit. Obviously both of us are very into the subject, and kind of came up with a plan of what the monster should kind of look like, and just kind of rolled from there. So it was really cool. It's something I've gone to do for a long time, but I'm always balls deep in commercial work. So this was basically a reason for me to sit down and actually do something like this, something that wasn't going to be Batman or, Superman or, a Marvel character or something,
And while we really enjoy all of those, your interpretation of the Fuke monster, I was just like, wow, this is insanely good. Like, I was completely blown away by it. I know Matt was, because he was like, you have to see this.
Yeah, it was awesome. First you notice, like, well, that's a familiar pose. I liked the way you incorporated the actual, positioning of the silhouette into the actual sculpt. But what did you said that you guys discussed everything about how the creature should look. How did you kind of come to that conclusion? Like, did you use certain references from previous materials, or is it just like, totally out of your head, or what?
Well, it was a little bit of a combination, but what I tried to do is after reading Lyle's book and different descriptions of the Fouke monster from over the years, a lot of the descriptions kind of described it as, obviously a Bigfoot type creature, like a bipedal ape of some sort, but maybe more lanky and kind of skanky from, skulking around in the swamps and stuff like that, matted hair. And I kind of looked at it as like, well, since, your standard kind of patty Sasquatch tends to have the shorter hair, more like a gorilla or something like that, maybe this one would have like longer hair coming down the head and shaggy around the arms, so there'd be an element of maybe more like the longer hair sections from orangutans on the arms. And then as far as the face, maybe you kind of go somewhere in between a human and an ape, but kind of less of a protruding snout like a gorilla or something. And I was also thinking in terms of, because they have in the movie all that stuff about hearing that creepy howl.
Right.
So I looked at a lot of reference to howler monkeys too and tried to get a little bit of that vibe in there. So he's got kind of a smaller nose, more like a howler monkey. And I wanted to give that vibe that he's kind of running through the swamp and letting off one of those moans at the same time, try to capture that kind of vibe.
Oh, you definitely captured.
Yeah,
you definitely captured
mission
a vibe.
accomplished.
Cool.
But to get, while we love this, to get off of this, because like we said, we completely geeked out. And you've probably heard this question like from people a bunch of different times, I'm sure. But what was it like working for McFarlane? And like what we want to know isn't like, did you sit there and go, oh my God, I'm working for McFarlane? But when was the day that you were like, oh my God, I'm working for McFarlane? That's basically what I want to know. Like
when I hit the get the fuck out point.
Yeah.
Well, the job did start, super positively. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. Because I started out in a little doll studio in upstate New York, kind of as like the mold maker scrub, And I did that for about 5 years and sent in some pictures of my work to the Tempe office of McFarlane, got in there. I worked there for almost 7 years altogether. And after about 2 years there, they put me in charge of the sculpture department. And that's really where it started to get to be a little bit of a drag. I mean, the people were pretty cool, but once you start managing other people, then it gets difficult because then you got to listen to everybody's shit. You spend more time babysitting than you do sculpting, and there'd be parts where there was one part where all I was doing was spawn capes, because I'd done so much drapery. So it'd be like one guy'd be roughing out a body and be like, all right, the cape looks like shit. Let me take that, redo it. And it would be like, instead of in the beginning where I'd get a sculpture, my boss would leave me alone for like 2 weeks to finish it, I'd have people knocking on my office door all day long, and then something would not be coming out quite right, so I'd have to take it and kind of sort it out. So there's a lot of meatball surgery rather than sculptural art going on. And I kind of started to get burnt out. Plus, there was a lot of there's kind of a lot of interdepartmental bullshit going on when you're working at a company, and dude doesn't like you, so he's trying to fuck you over. And I got tired of it. I was like, the day that I told my boss I was going to split, I was like, look, man, I was like, I know you spent all this time to get this place sorted, get it to be a functional studio, and I don't want to be the dude that's pissing in the pool after all that. So I was like, look, I need to go back to just being a sculptor and get out of all of this kind of management crap, And so that's what it was. So basically I just come to a point where I just wanted to get back to basics again, and I just got burnt out of being in a situation where There was a lot of personalities I had to navigate through every day, which I'm pretty good. You know, I can eat crow if I have to, or kiss some ass, or just tell people to go fuck themselves, whatever it is. But it gets tiring to do that. And now I basically work by myself. I got one cat that works for me down in the shop, helps me cleaning castings, does some light fabrication, some molding and casting stuff. But for the most part, I work in a massive space by myself, and nobody bugs me. So it's just, it's ideal. But that was really
everything
the point.
that I want in life.
I think probably most people would want to work by themselves.
Matt's does something similar. He works from home as well.
Yeah.
It's
I do
ideal if you
graphic
got the
design.
focus to do it.
Yeah, you have to have the focus because there's nobody there telling you, like, okay, you need to get to working on this. Don't forget about that deadline you have and stuff like that. But, I mean, have you reached a point now that you're independent where you can kind of afford to pick and choose what projects you take on, or do you get to do more of your own original stuff?
Not so much of my original stuff because it takes a lot of money to produce it, but I'm working towards something like that actually. I had briefly back to the Bigfoot thing, Lyle's gig was kind of a jumping off point, and like my whole career in this stuff has been weird, man. It's like there's been like moments when I kind of get a tingle, like spider sense kind of, where it's like, now's the time to move, to go do this instead, or to quit this job, or to not do this, or maybe try this. And it always, knock on wood, it always takes me in the right direction. And when Lyle came to me with the Falk Monster thing, I was like, I got to do this job because this is the next step, because I wanted to do some Sasquatch stuff. And I'd occasionally see a sculpture or a toy and be like, man, that blows. I could kill that.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is about a month, maybe it's a few months ago, a friend of mine who used to work with me before I sent me a message. And he's like, dude, I'm working on this project. Part of the project is like this Bigfoot stuff. And he's like, I want to do this stuff, but I could give a fuck about Bigfoot. And I was like, dude, and I hadn't talked to him when I was like, just so happens that I'm fucking geeked on it. And I said, tell your boss to call me. So we talked about it a little bit, and now I can't get into specifics yet, but in February in Toy Fair, we're going to announce, have an announcement about some relic hominid stuff that I'm really excited about. And that stuff, actually, I talked to him about it a little bit, and he had some ideas because he's into it too. He goes out and actually does, wood knocking and all that shit. But once I talked to him, he was like, well, dude, you seem to know an awful lot about this, so, me and you will have some basic discussions, but you pretty much take it where you think it ought to go. And for me, it's like I look at them as, the various creatures as being biological entities, so I want to interpret them as animals, not, having all sorts of predator kind of stealth powers and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. I'm not as into that, but...
So are you saying we could see a sculpture of the Jersey Devil?
Oh, potentially. If I have my way, you will.
Well, I know you're in Jersey now, you said?
Yeah.
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 So that would make complete sense.
Yeah. So that part of it is probably as close as to doing, my own thing as anything. And then everything else, like you're asking me before, Matt, that I basically don't take jobs I don't want to do. Right now, it's only stuff that I'm into. I don't have to take any job that comes down the pipe. Again, knock on wood,
Yeah.
It goes sideways in the industry. I could be eating those fucking words, but for the most part, cool Batman project comes down the pipeline, or like Diamond Select, who I do a ton of work with, they announced the Batman 66 license last year, and as soon as they told me about it, I was like, look, whatever you're doing with that, I want to be part of it. And then as the year kind of developed, we kind of put together an arrangement where it looks like I'm going to be doing pretty much all of the product for the Batman 66.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And I'm also developing a whole line of the first Sin City movie action figures for that, but that line's cool because I'm able to take that it's based on the movie, but I'm designing everything for it. And so I'm doing a lot of stuff where even if they're established licenses, I get a free hand in how I take them, the direction I want to take them. Like
you get a little bit of creative freedom with it.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about working with Diamond, because they typically give me a project. It doesn't matter what it is, but like the Batman stuff, their guys are developing like some product designs and stuff, and I'm doing all the sculpture and stuff. But whenever I do Marvel for them, like I have a Winter Soldier figure coming out the end of the month that's comic book based. And basically they give me the lineup of Marvel characters and say, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to do Winter Soldier. I was trying to figure out how I could pitch Winter Soldier to you guys, because he's not like an A-list character, but now that the second Cap movie is called The Winter Soldier, Disney wanted an exclusive based on the comics. So I went to the comic store, I bought all the graphic novels and as many issues of the new book as I could find to refresh my memory on them, and I found these beautiful cover paintings by Lee Bermeo, and I've done 4 statues based on Lee Bermeo's work for DC. I did a Batman, Superman, a Joker, and a Rorschach, and I just fell in love with this dude's work. It's like almost photorealistic, but with a lot of vibe to it. And when I found his paintings on the covers of that book, I was like, man, I'm basing this figure off of Lee's work. And because he just does such a kick-ass looking painted figure. And Diamond did, from the preliminary stuff I've seen of the figure, it looks really good. Like they took the sculpt, they nailed it in production, and the paint job looks really good. So I'm pretty psyched about that one.
Nice.
And I think I had a figure just came out, like I think a week ago. I did a New 52 Deathstroke for DC DC Collectibles, which is a little different arrangement. They design everything, so I'm basically just the sculptor. I kind of interpret to a little bit of a degree like drawings that they give me. So there's not a ton of creative freedom, but they have characters that I really love. I mean, my heart is with the capes and underpants crowd,
Right.
But the irony is the Marvel stuff, I can do just about anything I want as long as I keep it true to the character. I did a Venom last year for Marvel Diamond Select Toys, where what they wanted was a bunch of interchangeable heads so that you could do a version that would be like a Todd McFarlane version, or like the Madness Venom with like all the little tiny heads on his traps and everything, and the million arms, and different versions like that, and Lethal Protector. And so there's enough freedom for me to do something really interesting with the characters, and the parameters are a little bit looser.
That's awesome.
Is there anything that you haven't worked on that's just like your dream job?
So far, the only thing I haven't hit yet is I really want to work on Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
kind of...
Well, you have my permission.
So that's the next thing I'm working on, because I've managed to hit a lot of the stuff from McFarlane up until now. Every couple of years, one of those grails, like 66 Batman was one of the big ones.
Just tell me it's not the Mark Wahlberg version of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I went back and rewatched that like maybe a month ago, and it's like the designs and stuff are cool. It's just
right.
Typical of like Burton movies. They look beautiful, but the stories suck.
Right.
And in that movie, there's just the human characters are really lame choices, and you have really shitty dialogue. But the costumes were just really insanely cool.
Right, they even made the actors go through like ape school.
Yeah, and Ape City was really cool. Like the kids playing basketball, kind of, and then the one dude there with the hookah pipe, and it was done so well. And then of course, because I'm a collector too, and that Planet of the Apes is one of my things, I was really hoping for somebody to do cool toys. And actually, I was at McFarlane at the time, and Todd really wanted that license because he's really into Planet of the Apes. And he was bummed when we couldn't get it. and Hasbro got it because obviously they can throw $1 million at a friggin' license, and they completely took a dump on it.
Oh,
The worst toys ever. And it's just, I had a friend of mine who I've worked with who's like, oh yeah, so-and-so worked on that line, and I was like, man, I wouldn't fucking brag about that, dude. They look like toys from the 80s.
Do you have a favorite artist? I mean, I know mine is Michael Turner. He's passed away now, but when I was collecting comics, I would go out of my way to buy everything that he did.
Yeah, my hands down favorite artist is Jim Aparo, and between him and Jim Aparo, because when I was a little kid, I was reading Brave and the Bold and Adventure Comics, and he was doing Batman and Aquaman, two of my favorite characters. And then the other one was Gene Colan, who did Tomb of Dracula. Mm-hmm. And Tomb of Dracula was one of my favorite books of all time. So those two guys are my biggest influences, hands down.
And speaking of Aquaman, Matt thinks that the best choice for Aquaman just passed away in a car accident. Paul Walker.
Yeah, I guess...
I said he would make a decent.
I know. No, I was actually talking about that with someone today about how that in retrospect, you're right. He would have fit the role very well.
Well, let's just go there. You're a huge fan of Batman, so Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah.
What's your opinion?
I was sort of appalled when I heard it. It's just, I mean, not that the dude can't act, but, and I didn't really mind Daredevil that much, but I mean, I'm not, as a character though, I'm not like, my heart's not, with Daredevil, but I thought it was an okay movie. It's just some of the CGI just sucked balls, it just wasn't there. But like, as far as him as Batman, the whole thing to me just kind of smacks more of a corporate decision than what's good for the franchise, especially coming off of Christian Bale, because when I saw him in American Psycho, however many friggin' years ago that was.
Great movie.
Me and my brother were watching it. We're like, man, that dude would be a perfect friggin' Batman. He already looks like Bruce Wayne in that movie, and he's cut. He'd be killer. And then when they picked him as Batman, I couldn't friggin' believe it. And I was like, but I mean, I kind of have a perennial problem with comic book movies doing shit to the costumes. I mean, I love the Nolan films, but I fucking hate the vehicles. I hate those fucking...
Yeah, I'm with you on the vehicles and the costumes.
Yeah,
it's kind of like being in Bigfoot and watching the Bigfoot TV shows and the Bigfoot movies. You're like, what the fuck did you do to my precious Bigfoot? It's like, you can't be a fan of the comics and the movies and not have that feeling hits you at least once or twice.
See, my thing with Matt when we get discussing the whole Ben Affleck as Batman thing, the only thing he needs to pull off is the Bruce Wayne. Like, really, in that role, all you need to pull off is Bruce Wayne. And my reference for him, and I think he's a really good actor when he wants to be. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has to do with the person who's directing them too. And I think with Zack Snyder directing him, I don't think there's going to be as big of an issue as everybody thinks. I just look at like his role in The Town, like how he was able to he played like a very dual role in that. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that he was picked for it, I was like, I'm sold. I'll give him the shot. He looks like he could be the part, especially the way they want. I guess they want to portray Batman as more of a, not an old washed up hero, but an older, because I guess they want to go with the. From what I've heard, they want to go with the Kingdom Come run for the storyline.
Yeah, I've heard something like that, or like a Dark Knight Returns, kind of a Frank Miller-ish type vibe. Which is, it's cool. And it's like, of course, I'm a Batman freak, so obviously, regardless, I'm going to be there seeing it when it opens.
What did you think of Man of Steel, by the way?
Oh, I really loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was a great take.
I mean, I totally understand why the kind of Superman traditionalists were bent out of shape about it, but for me, it's like, I mean, I like working on Superman projects, but I don't follow the book so much because there's two things. Ever since I was a kid, I don't like superheroes that don't have masks, and I don't like the bright, happy superheroes. And it's like, I'm into Batman, all the darker characters and stuff like that. And so Superman was never really my bag. So I don't have a problem with them darkening up Superman because, you know, he's cool, but ultimately, as long as they don't fuck Batman up, I don't give a shit what they do with Superman. If they change his costume, it just means that I get more work because, all right, they changed his costume. Now they got to make a shitload of more figures and statues and everything. But they start doing it with Batman, and that's when I get to be a pissy old lady.
I got turned on to Superman when I always liked it as a little kid, but it was the Jim Lee run.
Mm-hmm.
There was one of the covers had him just looking like he was just gonna fuck everybody up. I mean, he's standing there, he's got his hand out, his eyes are glowing, there's like bullets coming at him, and he's just looks like he's ready to fucking destroy the world.
Yeah.
And I as soon as I saw that cover, I was like, oh, I have to check this out, and I read and bought the entire run, and that it was a much darker take on the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Superman would have been a lot cooler if Frank Miller or Alan Moore had created him.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the only thing there is you kind of have to the thing that worries me about that Superman Batman thing is now they're both dark characters. Regardless of whether the thing on his chest means hope, they're both really dark characters now. So how do you the thing that always worked with Batman and Superman is that they're kind of two ends of the same spectrum, you know?
Right.
Two different ends of the same spectrum. And, you know, if they're both dark characters, are they just going to be sort of like different shades of darkness, you know? Maybe Batman is so goddamn dark that Superman looks like the brighter character?
Well, I think the dark take on Superman wasn't so much a dark take on him himself, more of the world around him. That's the way I saw it because I mean if you look at the character himself, he wasn't, you know, he didn't do, with the exception of in the beginning before he, you know, took up the mantle, so to speak. Before then, yeah, it's kind of dark, but after then, it's more of there is more hope to it, I think. But I think you'll find that the character itself will change in the coming movie.
Yeah, because I mean, I was totally down with it. I fucking loved it, and we just watched it again like about a week ago, and I still loved it, man. Everything about it, like the way when you come into the movie and you see Krypton, it's the first time they ever did an interesting looking Krypton
Right.
that doesn't look like it was drawn in like the 60s. I mean, I'm fine with all the Logan's Run kind of bubble domes and fires and stuff, but when they had those dragons and all that, you know, that landscape and everything, it was just so friggin' badass. It was like, and of course, you know, that's, you know, all this whole discussion, the DC stuff to me, it really hinges on having Nolan involved in some way, Goyer involved in some way. Snyder's a great choice too, and you got to have guys of that caliber, and you got to have it where, you know, we're talking about the Affleck thing. The reason, not that I don't think the dude can't do it, but what worries me is if that is like a corporate decision and not a decision for the best, what's best for the franchise, it makes me worry that they're going to have their fingers in the rest of it, fucking things up.
Right.
You know, and that's what, I mean, the Batman trilogy was great because it had been fucked so badly in the previous decade.
Batman and Robin.
It was radioactive. You know, you couldn't get near it because it was a goddamn joke. And then they had to give it to someone and say, look, this is a complete fucking mess. Just take it and save it. Bring it back. And that's why they left him alone. But what worries me, once they start making money on anything, then people want to start getting involved and putting in their 2 cents, and all of a sudden you have movies like Catwoman and Constantine and Jonah Hex and, you know, Green Lantern.
Oh God! How
You know?
did they fuck up Green Lantern? Like, seriously, how the fuck do you fuck that up? It's a great character.
Yeah, it's again being a nerd on the stuff. The thing that bugged me was the casting choice. I mean, I like Ryan Reynolds. He killed me in Blade. He was hilarious, and I've liked him in the other superhero stuff he's been in. But to me, what bugged me is like, okay, he'd be a great Kyle Rayner, or he'd be a great Wally West, but he's not like
He's not Hal Jordan.
Yeah, he doesn't have that seriousness. And then when Parallax was that big friggin' cum monster, what the hell? It was just, you know, the problem is
to me was where he saved the day using the race car.
Oh yeah. Yes, I'm gonna use Hot Wheels to fix everything.
Yeah, what? So it was just, I was really bummed about that one. I mean, I haven't even been able to go back and watch it a second time. I mean, the CGI was good when they showed like the Lantern Corps and stuff. That looked pretty cool, you know?
It was the story.
But, yeah, the story just sucked, and the costumes sucked. It was just, you know, I mean, again, I hate it when they screw the costumes up in the movies. Granted, spandex doesn't read that great on screen, and everyone's terrified that it's going to end up looking like, you know, an Adam West kind of film, but it can be done well. And for me, like, to go back to the Batman thing, it's like, Batman's a gymnast, he's an aerialist, he's, you know, multi-martial artist, he's a detective, and now in the newer versions in the comic, his suit has a layer of Kevlar weave or something in it, but it still looks pretty skin tight. And the whole point is, he's not standing there with a guy emptying a friggin' AK at him. He's moving so that he doesn't get shot and stabbed as much. And when he does, he's like James Bond. He takes a hit and he suffers for it. Whereas, you know, a dude in full body armor, I don't care what you're saying or how realistic you're trying to be. That dude can't move for shit, man.
Well, hell, just look at all the movies where they stick them in these suits. They can't move for shit.
Yeah. Remember Michael Keaton in the first Batman? He'd turn his head and the cowl would stay in the same place. But I mean, that's one of the things, man. Obviously, I do a lot of this work, and there's certain things I just, you know, to a certain degree, I try to keep my opinion to myself because, you know, it's not necessarily always in your best interest to be shooting around. I don't to a large degree, but when it comes to Batman, that to me is sacrosanct. I'm allowed my opinion because I'm keeping those franchises alive as much as anybody with my hard-earned dollars, you know.
Well, we could beat the shit out of this all night long, but Gene, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
It was great to get to talk to you, and if you want to, the Fugue Monster is for pre-order still, you said?
Yeah, I think they're taking pre-orders now. I would imagine probably in the next few weeks they'll be able to start shipping them or something. But if you check out that website, that'll give you the down low on it as far as when it actually comes out. And I'm sure Lyle will post in all the Bigfoot rooms on Facebook also when it's available. And I always pimp anything that I'm even remotely involved with, so you'll know when it's actually available. I'll make sure, and he will too, I'm sure.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah, go check out www.resinrealities.net/boggycreek.htm for that sculpture. And again, Gene, thanks for joining us. It was great to get a chance to talk to you and geek out on comic book shit.
Yeah, likewise, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
And Matt, if he's there, did I lose him?
Yes. You could never lose me.
Yes. If you ever say we're BFFs, I will punch you in the dick. This has been Fortean Slip Interviews with Gene St. Jean. Join us next time when we have someone we have no idea who they will be, and we have no idea when we will do it.
TTYL.
You really are an asshole.
And that's why I'm on the show.
Yes, it is.